Welcome to Carrying Connected Conversations. I'm Sydney, a spiritual mentor who guides and supports you to live in alignment by finding and owning your power.
I'm Angie, a fitness and life coach, teaching you to love yourself unconditionally by staying accountable to your goals in fitness, food, life, and love. Syd and I are real-life BFFs and biz partners. Our deepest desire is to see you succeed in life by being willing and vulnerable to step out of your comfort zone.
We're constantly learning from each other while also providing support through every breakdown and every breakthrough. Not every conversation is easy. It's the difficult ones that lead you to create deeper connections in your life.
We want to inspire and empower you to love your life. So get ready for conversations filled with laughter, tears, and everything in between. Let's get connecting. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Carrying Connected Conversations. And welcome back specifically to episode 104. It's my double four. So exciting to be here. This is Angie chatting at you. Of course, you'll see Syd there. I will introduce her in just a sec. But today I want to let you know generally what we'll be speaking about. And it's going to be around routine. More specifically, what are we doing that is/isn't working in our every single day life? We're going to chat about all the things in terms of a routine, what that looks like, our behaviors attached in and out of that routine, and we'll see where else the conversation goes. So before we continue on, let's check in with Syd. Syd, how are you doing today, my friend?
Hello, I am doing really well today, actually. And I think that has a lot to do with my routine and what I'm implementing in my life right now. So I love that this is the topic that we are discussing today, because of course, I think there's always ways that we fall off our routine, or there's things that we do that don't work as well. But yeah, I am doing good. I'm excited to chat with you and to hear, what works for you, mainly because I think we've really come to terms with the fact that you and I are very different. And so what works for you doesn't work for me. And so I think it's great because it brings a whole new perspective to the listeners to see oh, I don't have to do something just because someone else said that this is what I need to do to reach what I desire, right? We're really breaking that stigma of don't follow somebody else's routine because it led them to success or it led them to the peace and joy that they desire. Be willing to self-reflect and become aware of your own emotions and what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and be willing to follow that direction.
I love that. And just as a general disclaimer, I want to say for our viewers as well as our listeners, take what resonates and leave the rest. So if there is something that resonates from, whether it's from Sydney directly or whether it's from me directly or somebody else out there in the world, that expression where it's take it with a grain of salt, it literally means take what resonates and leave the rest. Don't get caught up on exactly what Syd's doing. Don't get caught up on exactly what Silly Sally's doing. Because at the end of the day, we're all different people. Every body is different. So it's going to take some time for us to figure out what works for us and what doesn't work for us. So with that being said, Syd, what has really, really, really been working for you and why in your routine? And this can be super general or this can be super specific. I'll let you take the reins on this.
I feel like there's so many things that I could say right now. And I want to kind of start it off with what I've found from my daily routine in this year so far. And I think I started to practice it at the end of 2021, but really for this month of January, is really recognizing that I don't need to be structured in, I have to do it this way at a specific time, and I have to do these 5 things. For me, what's really worked is having a list of different things, different activities, tools, practices, moments, and experiences that I can do that make me feel good because I'm present in the moment while I'm doing them, and allowing myself to go with the flow of life. So recognizing, for instance, yesterday, from when we're recording this, was full moon. And I noticed I got a terrible sleep the night before, and I was just feeling so heavy and so drained, and I really didn't have the energy and or like the motivation to do much. I had a call with a client that I knew that I wanted to I didn't want to reschedule it. So I did some practices to kind of show up for myself to prepare for that call. And then I allowed myself to take the rest of the day off of work because there were no pressing matters for me. And I did so without guilt. So I think the main thing for my daily routine, because like, of course I can sit here and say meditation, having my morning practice of meditation every single day, journaling with that, pulling a card, an oracle card to receive a little bit more guidance. Those are three things that I do without a doubt every single day, and getting outside in nature. And the timing of my morning routine, like the meditation, the journaling, and pulling a card, for me, having that always first thing in the morning for me is really to just keep me accountable with making sure that that becomes habit and it becomes a lifestyle practice because it feels really good. But ultimately, I think the thing that works most for me right now that I'm really proud of myself is not guilting myself or shaming myself for doing things out of order or for taking breaks. It's the daily routine of checking in and saying, how do I feel right now? And what can I grab from my list of things to practice that will help me to feel better, or will, if I'm feeling inspired, great. What can I grab from my list of things so I can use that inspiration in a productive manner?
Now, would you say that there is X amount of times that you do these daily check-ins with yourself, like 3 times a day, 4 times a day, or does it really depend on the day?
I would say not. So I'm not looking at past me. I'm looking at present day me. I would say I check in every hour.
That's
and
amazing.
it's not a moment of like, oh, I got to do my check-in. It's because I've built that check-in practice as a behavior. It is a habit of mine. So I check in and kind of say like, whoa, what am I doing where I'm not present? Like, shit, I just opened Instagram and I'm scrolling, and like, I know this doesn't feel good, and I know this is wasting my energy. So having that grounded practice of checking in with myself on a moment to moment basis has been something that I've really practiced and leaned into. And it's really helpful that I've started this year in my own space. I'm staying at my parents' house while they're away. And so there's nobody distracting me. I don't have a lot of outside like environments influencing me. So it's really helped me to strengthen this practice and turn it into a habit.
I think that's so beautiful, especially from, well, if our listeners, not in this case, our viewers, but our listeners, if you guys have been listening on for quite some time, we've chatted about routine and behavioral things quite often, and definitely in the past. And I can't think of it at the top of my head the last time we had this conversation, but I do remember, just even from outside of the podcast, our friend check-in chats, it's so nice to hear that you are starting off your year the way that you want to, because I know we've chatted about this in the past, just with people being in your direct surroundings. Sometimes it's nice to have your own direct space. And now you're in this position where you've been able to, or you've been presented this opportunity to have your own space. And now you're really taking full advantage of every single moment. And it's almost like no wonder you're checking in every single hour, because you really don't want to let that time slip by. Because I know our listeners, as well as our watchers, can attest to this. How often have you said, holy shit, it's already this day? Oh my God, where did September go? Oh my God, I felt like it was just yesterday that it was the summer. How often? Because I know I can definitely say quite a bit in my past. And I'm sure, Syd, where you're in right now, it's not as often. And the reason behind that is because you've created such intentionality with being present. And we've chatted about this in the past couple of our episodes, specifically in the 100 round, where it's important to create that intentionality by being present. Because if we don't create this level of awareness to keep us in this present state in time, well, then eventually time is going to slip by and we're going to lose our perception on time. So if anything, the in the moment, in the present, it keeps you very attentive to the time, because time is one thing we can never ever get back in our life. So the more we are aware of each second, as each minute, as each hour, as each morning or afternoon goes by, the easier it is for you to create those supportive habits, those supportive behaviors, that routine to get you to where you're at right now, to where you want to go. But it's missing that one piece.
Yeah. And there's a few things that are popping up my mind on what you're talking about. And I think I just want to point out that, I'm not sitting there watching the clock tick by, right? And there's that saying that life or time flies when you're having fun. And so that's the point for me, is these check-in moments that I'm having. If I look and it's been 3 hours or 2 hours, it's not a moment of like, oh my God, what's happened? It's a moment of saying, what have have I been using that time wisely? Did it fly by because I'm doing something that I love to do? And then I kind of make that as a mental note, like, wow, I totally got lost in writing. And I'm doing a lot of writing right now, with writing blogs and writing guidebooks and writing kind of like a memoir. And so when I'm in that space and my writing and I look at, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like an hour and a half has passed and it's felt like 15 minutes. It's that reminder for me of like, yes, this is a great thing for me. So then the second thing that I want to say on time, I'm going to turn it around and talk about something that really doesn't work for me when it comes to daily routine, and something that I'm so glad that I'm finally admitting to it, and I'm finally acknowledging it, and I'm finally doing something with it, is social media. It wastes my time, it wastes my energy, and it's a practice I don't enjoy. And like, I know that there's a lot of people that love it, and there's a lot of good that can come from it. So I am not telling you or anyone like you, Ange, or anyone listening, how to live your life. I'm not telling you to get off of it. I am simply saying, for me, I finally recognized that it doesn't fuel me. So being a generator in human design, it's really important that I am doing daily tasks and activities that light me up, because I have that ability to create more energy for myself when I'm practicing something that I enjoy. And it's no wonder when I look back on October, November, and December, like I was so drained in those months and I didn't have a lot of energy. And I was in a space of like, when am I going to get through this shadow? When am I going to get through this darkness? And now in January, I'm like, oh my God, there's so much light in my life because I made that distinction and I'm not prioritizing social media. You're on your spiritual journey, desiring to create a deeper connection with your inner spirit and your soul path, but you feel lost in how to create more joy and calmness through life's challenges. In the meditation membership, you will feel seen for who you are and understood in a way that feels empowering and uplifting, alongside a community of like-minded beings. For only $33 per month, you will get 2 live calls filled with spiritual lessons, open-minded conversation, and powerful guided meditations. Join the meditation membership for more connection and support as you grow into the best version of you. Does it mean that I never go on it? No, like I definitely still find myself on Instagram every day scrolling, but I'm not pressuring myself to post. I'm not forcing myself to create content for it. And when I do notice I'm on it, I do that mental check-in of like, whoa, how am I feeling right now? How long have I been on this? Is this actually allowing me to connect myself to my spirit? Is this making me feel good? And usually all of the answers to those questions lead me to say, get the fuck off of it. Like, come on, Sydney, like this isn't serving you. Let's get off of it. So now I'm so much more conscious of when I pick up my phone and I'm about to go on Instagram and I'm like, is this a good use of my energy? And I usually say no. So then I have an app on my phone that's linked up to my library card. So I read a lot of books on my phone. So I've created that practice of saying, oh, wait, Instagram's not going to make me feel good. I'm going to open up my book and read for an hour instead.
I like that. And that's important to know what activities make you feel good. And that was from that list you talked about earlier in the episode, right? Like having that defined list of things that you like to do. And that way, you can pick and choose from that list. If you can catch yourself in the moment where you're finding that your behaviors are not supporting you, like how social media has not been.
Yeah, exactly. So I could keep going and talking, but I want to know you, like what's working for you with your routine? What are you wanting to practice more? And also, what are you finding that's not working?
Yeah, totally. So it's funny because we originally said, okay, what are we going to chat about today? Normally we don't have those check-in chats, but you asked the question about routine and I'm like, I don't even know if I can answer that. So I'm going to talk through it. So I do apologize. I don't have a this is it and this is not it. I'm going to talk through it as best as I can. So the position that I'm in right now in my life is I work for myself, but I also have a full-time job. So I'm full-time for myself, full-time at my job. Now, obviously, this means I need to have a good work-life balance. Am I noticing that it falls short in some areas? 100% most definitely. And I guess that's what makes me human. But I'm also here to correct those things. I'm also here to adjust those things, to figure out how they can best support me, because I'm a big advocate of how you do one thing is how you do all things. So I'm very attentive when I'm in my most awareness state, which right now in my life is when I'm at work. When I'm at work, I am very aware. I'm very intent of every single minute, every single like everything. So that's good because that means I'm intentional in the other things that I'm doing in my life. But anyways, in regards to that and bringing in that work-life balance, one thing that I have been noticing, and this is more specifically into the end of last year, and of course, before the lockdown had started, where I would catch my self-care routine fall off the back burner. And this happened quite often. As soon as my work hours increase, something else is going to have to go. And that was my self-care routine. At some point, I think it was, I don't remember exactly when. I'll have to look on my months, but there was a certain time frame where even my business decided to be completely on the back burner because I'm like, I don't even have time for that. And that didn't feel very good for me. So the reason why I'm saying that is because I've also removed a way of not feeling that shame or that guilt for not doing something that I said or wanted to do. So originally I had a huge list of things that I love to do, and I would do them whenever I was feeling off. Now I'm in the position where I know what to do when I'm feeling off. I know what to do to support myself, and I'll just go ahead and do it. So I don't necessarily need the list for that, but it's again nice to have because sometimes in your moments you forget. So the thing that I've been realizing lately is that mornings used to be for me, but lately, since I've been at my full-time job, they can't be because I work in the morning. I work either at 5 o'clock in the morning or at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I'm either up at 4 or at 5 a.m. To have my full self-care routine that early in the morning, which means I'm going to have to be up at like 2 or 3. It's not going to happen. So I need to make sure that I can adjust what feels good in my life and how it feels good based off of the things that are a little bit outside of my control. And that being said is my work schedule. So what I've been able to do lately is I've been able to remove that shame and that guilt for not doing my morning routine to start my day how I want it. What I've been able to switch to is knowing that I have that list of things to do, knowing that I can do all these different activities to make me feel good. But when I give myself that time is as soon as I'm done at work and as soon as I'm at home and as soon as I've had my first nutritious meal at home. Because that has been so difficult for me in the past where I get super busy and I get caught up in all the things and I'm like, oh yeah, it's 3 o'clock and I haven't eaten yet, but I've had 6 coffees, right? That's old Angie habits that started to come back when I started off my position back in October. And I was catching myself definitely a lot sooner than what I had in the past. But again, to remove myself from that shame and that guilt of not doing my self-care practices first thing in the morning, like how I always used to do, it's allowed me to almost like give myself more freedom and more flexibility. And by allowing myself of that, I don't feel the pressure on having to take care of my self-care routine. Oh shit, it's 8 o'clock and you haven't done anything yet for your self-care. It's like, actually, no, I've done quite a bit. I had my nutritious meal at work. I've had my nutritious meal at home. I've had plenty of water. I've been able to do some things off of my list. Like it's a very loose routine right now. Yes, I will admit. However, I'm in the midst of always navigating and pivoting, and it's seeming to be on a month by month basis. So what I've been doing for this past month has been feeling good for me, especially coming back after a big sickness. Oh my goodness, that was super challenging in itself. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at in a big nutshell.
I think it's really, I see a similarity in how you were kind of explaining at the end and what I said kind of at the beginning. And I think that this is the most important thing that we need to remember when it comes to a daily routine is, what is your definition of routine? Is it like, does it have to be extremely structured? Because to me personally, that creates a lot of pressure and a lot of forcefulness. And it's seeming to be like, I'm doing this to get to the end. It's a means to the end. I got to cross all these off of my list to say I accomplished something. Whereas I believe a daily routine is about, no matter what is going on in your life, because there's going to be challenging phases, there's going to be peaceful phases, and there's going to be phases filled with blessings. So no matter what's going on in your life, it is a commitment to yourself to show up for yourself, to make sure that you are prioritizing connecting mind, body, spirit. So what that daily routine looks like and how it transpires, it can shift and evolve and change and flow depending on what you're experiencing in your life at that time. But the important thing is that you have a daily routine. You have something that reminds you to prioritize yourself and to show up for yourself. So the fact that you're saying, I'm no longer shaming and guilting myself for not doing this step-by-step process, I think that's so important. It's so important to have that, because otherwise we're wasting our energy even when we are doing that step by step, right? Because like we're feeling pressured. And then you come to that space of saying, old me, self-care was, journaling and, saying affirmations or whatever that list of things are. But new me is recognizing that self-care is making sure that all of my needs are provided for. And the days where I have more time and more energy, I can do more fun things and I can provide for myself in a larger way. But right now, recognizing I ate a nutritious meal, I got a good night's rest, I listing out those things that I drank water, like checking off the things that you already listed, that shows the growth that you've made. Because like, if you guys are new to our podcast, we did an episode very early on. I want to say like it was within the first couple of months that we started our podcast. And in an episode, and I think it's called Work-Life Balance, actually. And you,
that's like episode 3, 4, 6.
That's what I'm saying. Is like one of the first ones.
Oh my God.
And you talked about how when you lived, like, it was probably like 8 years ago or 7 years ago, you had a job, and this was, I don't even think you had started your business yet. And you had a job and you were drinking coffee all day and you were barely eating anything and you like weren't taking care of yourself at all. And so the fact that right now you're saying, I'm priding myself and celebrating myself on having nutritious meals throughout the day. And that's me showing myself love, knowing that I'm caring for myself. Like that's massive growth that you've created for yourself, because you're basically in the same environment. It's not the same, but it's a very similar environment to back then, but you got more things added onto it because you also are running a business now.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you say that, because I've noticed that exact correlation as well, being back in the position that being in the position that I'm in, technically back at the same workplace, just a different city. But besides the point being is that even though I had similar behavioral patterns in the past, I'm at least able to recognize it that much faster when those behavioral patterns come forward, because it's a pattern. I've known for that to happen. I've known for myself to get into this certain mood, or all of a sudden I'm not feeling well. I'm feeling lightheaded halfway through the day. Oh yeah. Have I eaten? Have I stocked up on that coffee? Right. It's just bringing back in that, the intention. And kind of pausing that thought just for a quick sec, I do want to touch base on something that you had mentioned earlier, is this whole idea of loose routine. And I know we keep circling back to it, but I think it's so important. And especially for some of our viewers, well, especially for our viewers, because this is new, how we're sharing this podcast platform in this regard on YouTube. But this is something that I live with for myself. And it's something that I 100%, well, yeah, 100%. You'll get why I'm laughing in a sec, but I 100%,
I know.
Yeah, 100% tell my clients to live this way. And it's by living the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time you are hitting all those checks in the box. You're doing all the things, getting everything done. The other 20% is like, I don't give a fuck. I don't want to. I don't have time. Something crazy happened. I don't have control of the situation. I can't do it. That when you give yourself 20% of your day, of your hour, of your week, of your month, however you want to look at it, if you give yourself 20% to basically screw up when you don't want to, it allows you to remove the guilt and to remove the shame so much easier, because you've already created some wiggle room for yourself. But if you do not create wiggle room for yourself, what you're going to want to do is perform at 100% all of the time. And then what happens if you keep performing at that 100% line, you bring yourself to burnout. That's what had happened to me in the past. So now I'm showing up in a position where I'm only needing to show up 80% of the time for myself. So that way the other 20%, if I don't feel like cooking myself a nutritious meal and I want to order pizza, yeah, you know what? This is the first night this week that I can do that. I'm going to do that because I deserve it.
And that is giving yourself grace, because we do not have control over everything. And so if we're trying to live by that 100% rule, if we're trying to stay structured in a daily routine, which is meant to take care of yourself, your daily routine is meant for you to show yourself love. It's meant for you to create connection, mind, body, spirit. So you're not living in survival mode, you're living in creation mode, because this is what you've set up for yourself, because you know it's beneficial. When a wave comes and knocks you out, I don't know why a wave would come out of nowhere, but it's for me, it's
a shit sandwich.
Yeah, right? Okay, so when something happens to like shake up your life, that 20% rule is allowing you to carry grace when you're no longer in control. So you can take a step back and you can say, rather than shaming myself and guilting myself and judging myself and being angry for what's happening outside of me, how can I come back into a graceful space and say, how am I going to move forward? Or it's that intentional, man, I've eaten really well. I'm going to like treat myself and I'm going to go grab that pizza, right? Like that sense of grace can show up in any way. But the point is, your life isn't meant to be structured to get to an end result. Your life is meant to be enjoyed and experienced right now. And the more that we put ourselves in this space of, well, I'm not living my dream life and I got to get there at some point in the future, you are resisting experiencing your dream life right now. Yeah, you might not have everything perfected and everything figured out, but you do have the ability to create joy right now. You do have the ability to create peace right now. You do have the ability to pursue something that you're passionate about right now, whether that's a hobby or a full-time job. And the daily routine is setting you up for success in a way to remind yourself where your power is and where you are taking care of yourself and where you are prioritizing things that feel good. And the more that you do that, the easier it becomes to recognize oh, this line of work actually isn't right for me because it's really impacting me more than that 20%, right? You become more aware on the things that you don't have control over that are affecting you negatively, and you start to remove them from your life.
Like, I can't agree more. And it also brings us back to this idea. I can't remember if it was 2 weeks ago. I have a feeling it was episode 102 or 103, but you talked, no, it was the first episode that we went into the new year. So maybe that was 102.
102? Yeah.
Yeah. And it was how you wanted to talk about your intention moving into the new year is by removing pressure. And I think this goes so perfectly with this conversation today. The only way that we can remove the pressure of us performing to a certain level within our routine is to understand that our routine does not need to be so solidly defined. It can be loose, and it can be whatever the heck you want. It can even just be morning or afternoon. Like, you can generalize it. You can even generalize it for the whole day. Do three things three things. My my blurred background looked funny, but you could do three things once a day. It's just trying to find something that feels good for you. And I really want to touch base on this whole idea of structured routine for a quick sec, because I'm going to bring in the whole fitness and nutrition side of things into it. Now, if you guys are new to the podcast, well, first of all, welcome. But second of all, I have been on a crazy journey myself in my fitness world. And what I mean by that is I used to compete at a provincial level for bodybuilding, specifically speaking bikini. So I was a bikini level competitor in the bodybuilding world. And I lived this way for 3 to 4 years. What does that look like for those that have no idea what the heck I'm talking about? It means you eat a specific food at a specific time, you work out a specific way at a specific time, and then you do all these specific things to give you the specific end result, which is to look a specific way.
Sorry, I want to interrupt because you kept saying specific. And I just want to point out, you're looking a specific way for somebody else's standards.
100%. 100%. The things that I was putting myself into, it was not for me. It was for the judges, for them to tell me how good I look, for them to tell me how well I train, for them to tell me if I did or did not eat or drink enough water. Like, it's putting myself in a position where all I'm doing is just following a list and then doing it. That's autopilot. That is easy. That's not actually giving yourself that fulfillment. So long story short, from that very strict routine life that I had lived, I completely fell out of love with working out. I completely fell out of love with food. And I'm the biggest foodie. I eat all the time and I'm always hungry. But I got to this position where I'm like, yeah, literally all the time. But I literally got to a point in my life where I'm like, fuck food. I don't want to make it. I don't care anymore. I resented food. I resented working out. I resented doing anything physical or anything really for me, for that matter, because I followed something so specific. Tired of trying multiple fad diets and various workout programs, yet still feel like there is nothing working? Lacking the consistency and confidence in your own knowledge of what to do in and out of the gym is why those last 10 pounds feel impossible to lose. You need the accountability to remind yourself that this is a lifestyle you're creating, not an end result. Why? Because your happy, healthy life is the result. I'm here to show you how to feel good about your body every single day, and the Fit and Free membership does just that. It's for the woman who needs accountability and a structured program or routine. For only $40 a month, you'll get 8 live recorded workouts with a personal trainer, 1 mindset coaching call, and over 50 plus different workouts to do on your own every single month. Get started by joining the Fit and Free membership today. So I guess really what I'm trying to say is I'm living proof as to why this 80-20 rule is so important to embody in your life. And especially if you are coming from a position in your life where you had to follow something very strict. And this could be anything, right? Like I couldn't even give you another example, but I'm just going to keep it to fitness and health. But if you followed something so strict for so long, and now you're in a position where you feel lost, I get it. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Or at least I was at a certain point, because I was too. When we don't give ourselves that wiggle room to not perform at 100% or 120% for those overachievers like myself, then we're immediately going to bring ourselves into disappointment, into guilt, into shame, into doubt that we're able to perform better, if not the same as we had in the past. So yeah, 80-20 is so helpful.
Yeah. And our body's not supposed to perform 120% all the time. We're supposed to have moments of rest. We're supposed to have moments of healing and moments, to take care of ourselves. And bringing in the spiritual side of things and the energy side of things in that spiritual aspect. Like, we move through cycles, even in our environment. The earth moves through cycles. There is not a time where the earth can be growing fruit all of the time, year round, right? Before we jump into a card reading, I really just want to point out something that you said, Ange, that I think sums up this conversation perfectly. You said autopilot is easy, but it's not fulfilling. And that's the point that we're saying, is if your daily routine is structured and you're checking things off, or it's become so autopilot, you're not actually paying attention to the way that you feel. You're not paying attention to what your body's saying. You're not paying attention to what your spirit's saying. And maybe you're not even paying attention to what your mind is saying, right? So make sure that your daily routine is not about living on autopilot. It's about being conscious. It's about being aware. It's about recognizing what's happened outside of me that's impacting the way that I feel right now. And how can I take a moment to care for myself, to love myself, to reconnect to myself in a way that feels good? So as I continue moving through life and things outside of me are influencing me and impacting me, I know that I'm in my center. I know that I'm connected mind, body, spirit. And I know that I'm making choices from a conscious space rather than living on autopilot and just trying to finish the day.
100%, because it's that much harder to live, but it's a lot easier to exist.
Yes.
I heard that, and that stuck to me ever since. And the context of it was, the older I get, the easier it is to exist and the harder it is to live.
And I think that's I think that's the point of what you and I are saying about daily routine.
Yeah.
It's not for you to simply exist. It's for you to live, and to live an enjoyable life, and what that means to you, the individual.
Exactly.
Wow, man, I'm so inspired. Are we good or are we good?
Honestly, I think we're great.
And this is the point. This is why we have this podcast, is because we had no idea what we were going to talk about today, but simply opening the conversation and saying, let's connect on something that's deeper than just the weather. Let's connect on something that's more than just talking about other people, right? Let's talk about our experiences and what we're learning from the way that we're choosing to live life. And then let's be open-minded and hear what the other person has to say. And from that, maybe we can learn and we can find a lesson, and we can kind of carry that into our life further.
Yeah, start checking in. Don't check out. Ooh.
Checking out is just existing. Exactly. Checking in is living.
Yes.
This is fire. So
somebody call 911.
I love it. Now that we have really gotten clear on what's working for us, what's not working for us, and how we're carrying that into our daily routines, in order to live a connected life, in order to live a created life, hoping that, the listeners, you guys were inspired by this to start checking in with yourself. So what do you think if we jump into a card reading now and bringing a little bit more guidance in?
Yeah, I think it's definitely time. I know our chats have been a little bit longer lately, but you know what? I'm liking the 45-minute line.
We're loving it.
Yeah, I think it's the perfect amount of time. If you guys are new, you'll see all of our old episodes, 1 to, I don't even know, 60, 75. They're all an hour, sometimes even an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours.
We like to talk.
Yeah, we like to talk a lot. So 45 minutes seems to be a good right smack dab in the middle.
Okay. I said, what does the collective need to know right now? And 4 cards flipped over. So I'm not going to go super in depth with these. I'm going to try and keep them, I was going to say lighthearted, but that's not it. I'm just going to try and, share something quick off of each card. And I'm getting that for some of us, all of the cards are going to resonate. And for some, maybe just a couple. So just pay attention as I'm speaking. Is there a calling within you that's maybe a vibration, maybe an energy that's like, oh my God, I needed to hear that. Oh, that message is for me. So the very first message is Father Sky, trust in the unknown. Now, what's beautiful about this card is right now, as we're recording this, I said yesterday was full moon, and we're also in Mercury retrograde right now. And so usually at that time, things slow down. We're not supposed to rush into action. We're supposed to be careful about the way that we communicate. We're supposed to be cautious about the way other people are communicating with us. Like, don't rush to conclusions on what somebody else says. So this card for me is just saying, things are taking place behind the scenes. Like, you're manifesting changes. You're calling things into your life right now. You're asking for things to show up that maybe you haven't seen in your physical reality yet. Trust in the unknown. Father Sky is saying there is a limitless energy that is surrounding you, and those shifts are taking place. And the universe is working behind the scenes. Right now is not a time for you to act. Right now is a time for you to trust. Second message. Sage, be devoted and committed to your daily routine. Sure. Right? Be devoted and committed to showing up for yourself, for choosing to create your life, for recognizing what works and what doesn't work, and then be devoted and committed to following a practice that works for you. Doesn't need to be structured. So don't shame and guilt yourself if you're falling into that 20%. But wake up the next day and ask yourself, today's a new day. How can I be devoted and committed to myself today and to the connection that I desire to create with myself and my family and my peers and the life that I desire to live? Be devoted and committed. Next card, Trader, exchange energy to create abundance. Ooh, are you calling in abundance? Are you calling in abundance in love, abundance in money, abundance in joy? What are you giving? Right? There needs to be a balance, a give and take in this world, right? That's the law of give and take. So if you're calling something in, what are you doing to create that energy in your life? Are you calling in money? What are you doing to give to other people, to give to the universe? Are you calling in love? What are you doing to love yourself and to love others? Exchange energy to create abundance. You have to give something in order to receive something. Mountains, stand your ground. You know what is right for you. You are strong, you are capable, you are powerful. Be rooted in your wisdom. Stand tall to the limitless energy of the heavens above you. Stand your ground, voice your opinion, make sure you are being heard. Stop letting people walk all over you.
Every single one of those cards resonated.
Yeah.
But to be quite honest, the first card did not resonate 100% until you brought up that beautiful word communication. And at that point, I was like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Don't trust in the unknown of what isn't said. Trust in what is said, what is communicated, right? It brings you back to that piece of you need the communication piece rather than the assumption piece. And the second card, commitment and devotion, I think it was from Sage.
Mm-hmm.
That one, as well as the last one you had read, which I don't remember what the last one was called.
Stand your ground, mountain.
Stand your ground. Those two resonated with me deeply, more specifically with what's going on at work. But as I talked about earlier, how you do one thing is how you do all things, which also trickles into my business. So I needed to hear those two messages today. Now, my question to you guys, our watchers and our listeners, is what message stood out for you? Let us know in the comments. Send us a DM stating exactly which card resonated the most, because there were 4 big messages needing to be heard today.
Beautiful. I love that. Yeah, definitely let us know in the comments. Thank you so much for joining us and choosing to press play on yet another episode. And if this is your first one, thank you Thank you. Please consider subscribing to us on YouTube if you've enjoyed watching the podcast. There is a chance that we may be doing live streams in the future, so that would allow us to connect with you while we are chatting. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever, please leave us a rating and a review. It really helps us to grow the podcast. That's all that we have for you guys this week. Don't forget, grab your journal and a pen and reflect on some of the things that we've talked about and the messages that have come forward, because the more that you understand yourself, the easier it becomes for you to show up and create a life that you enjoy. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. We are sending you so much love, light, strength, peace, joy, whatever you need right now. And we will chat at you guys next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.